is our song opener. This is our song opener. Sit back and enjoy the ride, boys.
Oh my God, is it that time already?
No, it's not.
For serious?
It's not.
Time flies.
I can't believe it's still daylight outside. I felt like I was here super early because it's still daylight outside. I was like, wow.
Yeah, no.
But it was dark as heck this morning.
Was it?
Yeah.
Was it?
Yeah, I got
I
up.
was
I was like,
sleeping in.
what's wrong with this?
I didn't get up till 9.
It's all about the same for me. It's always dark when
Yeah, there you go.
It
it's
doesn't
always
matter.
dark when I get out of work. A few hours later, I'm like,
No, but when I get up at
it's
3
like
o'clock, it's dark,
sizzling.
right? But it was dark this morning at 6.
Yeah.
That's the problem with this daylight savings time. It doesn't save you anything.
I'm not a
It just
fan.
kind of moves it around a little bit.
Well, no, it's like if I have to go to sleep early and it's still, sun's still out. It's like, that's hard. I just want to be up and play. Anyway, so we're going to talk about some fun stuff today. Hope some people are going to join us soon. Let's see. Oh, we got somebody. That's probably just you, Lizzie.
It's just me.
Yeah,
Just
it's
me.
just-
Well,
right.
if you don't have any
Share.
callers, we're going to do it for you.
Share if you care. But tonight we're going to go a little more in depth about the insulin resistance and the pre-diabetes, what it is, and some other stuff that's all involved with that, and how you can become a patient with Stages of Life Medical Institute so that they can help you through this time.
They
And
can help us?
Oh, yeah. Well,
Really?
as helpless as you may be at
No.
times, my love. Yes. Mm-hmm.
And while it's true, I do radio from time to time.
Do you?
Yeah. But I'm actually also a real doctor. So I had a patient in this morning.
Uh-huh.
Now, we had to call it an afternoon because some clown hit the telephone pole and knocked the power out for 4,000 people.
Good job.
4,000 families, actually.
Whoops.
And so, we had to call it off. But this morning, so this gal, I'm working with her, and she goes, you have a voice that's made for broadcasting. I said, well, thank you very much for
voice
that.
for radio.
Yeah, I got a face for radio. And so, so it was actually kind of funny that she would say that. And I said, well, did the radio do the voice or did the voice, do it? And I said, no. I said, here's how it works. Okay? When you do broadcasting, when you do any of this kind
Oh,
of
gee,
stuff.
we're not going to have time to
No,
hear all
wow,
that.
Oh,
that was
too bad.
quick.
That was too bad.
Wow,
My
that's
ramble is
I
cut
hated
short.
that.
Well, too bad for you.
Too bad. Wow. I couldn't have
Saved by the bell.
I couldn't
Planned
have,
it better.
couldn't have done it better.
Yeah.
Thank you. Way to go. All right, we'll start the real show.
Well, when I was a youngster.
Wait a minute, here comes a bus. Oh, there goes Melissa.
Right under the bus.
Live from the Connections Studio Suites, it's Connections. Connections is relationship radio.
Whee! Hey, hi guys. We all right? How we doing?
Are
Welcome.
we?
Doing well, thank you.
Good. All right, all the faces are in the right places. I am Melissa Fox, along with hashtag Lizzie Said What.
That's me, boy.
It is, and we've got Dr. David Klein, the one, the only. Hi.
Hey, how's it going?
You expect more? Did
No,
you give it
actually,
like
I
a
was
little
doing
more?
okay. I was just trying to think, how are we going to, the hashtag the Great Cojones? No, I don't think so.
Leave my hashtags alone.
All right, need to start
Leave
over
my
again. And
hashtags.
3, 2, 1. No, I'm just kidding. Hey, Iggy, thanks for joining us on our social media at Connection Show, along with Stages of Life Medical Institute. We are broadcasting across all kinds of social media platforms right now. Tonight, we are going to be talking about insulin resistance and pre-diabetes. Dr. Dave, what brought this topic to the forefront?
Well, no, it was a commercial on TV.
Oh.
So I was watching TV, just kind of relaxing, catching grief from my wife.
Sometimes I
And-
wonder why I ask these questions.
Yeah. It was just a usual day, usual evening. And so they went on and they were talking about some goofy product. You can take a pill in case you have insulin resistant syndrome or pre-diabetes.
A pill will fix it.
One
all.
pill will fix this.
That's it.
And so, here you go. And if you go ahead and call us, we'll give you one full bottle for free. And then for the rest of
Cool.
your life, we can't get you off of our credit card. It's one of these kinds of deals. Be very aware. So insulin resistance, pre-diabetes are the same thing. What this works out to is diabetes doesn't just happen to people that are overweight. And it doesn't just happen to kids when they're in grade school. Diabetes type 1, diabetes type 2. What will happen is as we get a little bit of age on, and sometimes it doesn't take that much age, the machine starts to break down.
What?
Now, that's called prediabetes or insulin resistance, which is actually a much better term. Because, quite frankly, when you develop insulin resistance syndrome, which we'll get into in a moment, you are actually already diabetic. There's no anything about it. You are it. The difference is that you can have diabetes without having your blood sugar go up, but you can have, the problem persists for about 10 years before you'll actually be diagnosed with it. So when I was growing up, when I was a young doc, we used to do Little Dave. Little Dave with a little black bag, which contained my lunch.
I think I was going to say Little Black Dave, and I was like,
Little Black Dave.
no.
I've
You didn't have ears in there, did you?
No, I didn't, and I've never been. And so, but here's how it works.
I'm all
okay?
ears.
I'm all ears. And,
The story in Lake County that happened about the guy cutting off his grandfather's ears and putting them in his pockets. But
Really?
anyway, let's go on.
Oh, that's
Did you
rude.
miss that one? Well,
No,
he
I did
wanted
miss
his
that one, but only in
grandpa-
Lake County, another Florida story.
Apparently, long of the short, he wanted his grandfather and his grandmother to be reunited again.
So why
Exactly.
didn't he take a piece of it out to make it more interesting?
I don't know. But anyway, he may or may have not been insulin resistant.
I
So.
know.
A little
Right. There
turns
has
all around.
been some weight gain and things that went on before
Yeah.
he went cuckoo.
So we're going to take a piece of grandpa and kind of like hang it in my pocket.
All right.
So what do we do? Okay, so as these things start to break, insulin levels go up, blood sugar stays the same, you get fatter, but you don't really develop diabetes necessarily for 8 to 10, 15 years. So why does this matter? It matters a great deal. So when insulin, its function, why do you have insulin? It lowers blood sugar, that's what it's supposed to do, but it also has one other major function, and that is to put fat on your belly. So the more insulin you have, the fatter you get, which is actually one of the many reasons why when you're diabetic and you take insulin, you get fatter and fatter and fatter and fatter. Then the doctor will say, you need to lose weight or you're going to get worse. They're making you worse while they're telling you not to get worse.
Oh.
Okay, so that's actually part of the game. And then they pay you for this. So why? Why do we have to go through this? So could this be responsible for your weight gain? So instead of wasting a ton of money on lots and lots of different types of weight management programs, none of which really, oddly enough, have long-term legs to them,
Right.
what do we do? First thing you need to do is to find out, do I in fact have insulin resistance syndrome? It's not enough to watch the television and go, wait a second, my waist is big, therefore I've got it. The answer is no. It takes something on the order of $15 to $30 worth of blood work. I mean, you're not talking serious money here, right? $30. Why? Because you're looking for something called the insulin to glucose ratio. As insulin goes up and glucose remains the same, you know what? The blood sugar kind of tweaks its way up a little bit, and yet the weight goes up and up and up. So how much weight are you typically looking at with metabolic syndrome X, insulin resistance
15,
or prediabetes?
20, what?
4 to 5 pounds per year. So at 18, how much did you weigh? Well, everybody knows what they weighed when they're in high school. Most everybody has that
I have
figured
no
out.
idea. No, not
You
gonna.
don't?
No,
172 pounds, 6 feet tall. That's what I was. And that happens to be my
There's probably
exact...
other measurements we don't want to know.
Well,
as
no, but I mean,
yes. I'm
it's
just
well
saying.
known among certain circles.
But
So-
okay, talking about high school weight though, are you supposed to stay your high school weight your entire life?
Yeah,
to
actually
be
you are.
honest with you, but what?
You kind of are. Yeah, that's where you're supposed to be. That's your healthiest
Shut
weight.
up.
So how much should a man weigh? How much? Okay, at 5 feet, it's 106 pounds, and 6 pounds for every inch over that. That's how you figure out whether or not you're at or above or below your insurance weight. That's where the charts come from. For women, it's 100 pounds at 5 feet and 5 pounds for every inch over 5. That is the way these things work. So as you start to gain 4 or 5 pounds at the age of 18, by the time you're 28, you got 40 on.
Oh God.
By the time you're 38, okay, or 40, you've got 50 or 60 pounds on. That's the way it works. And so if you look around, go to UCF, go to FSU, go to whatever college you want to
That's
on
creepy.
alumni weekend.
That's creepy.
Look at the dad bods. Okay, because you can see the kids at 18 to 21.
Dad bods are hot.
Not necessarily.
What?
Okay, yeah, they're the ones with the guts. And so
and? We
what's
know.
this all about?
Point.
The point is that you can see the kids at 18 or 19, and then you can see their parents with 20 extra years on them. And it becomes very obvious what the problem is.
What's gonna happen?
So
here?
what's the fast way to figure this out? Okay, you're going to say, well, gee, if I go buy this stuff, it's only going to cost me $50 a month for the next decade before you figure out it doesn't work. So the fast way to getting this thing done, the fast way to get anything done, is to go get the lab work, which is incredibly affordable. I mean, really, it is dirt cheap when you look at the greater scheme of things. If you go into a diet program, any of these diet programs, you're going to spend many hundreds of dollars or more and end up predictably with very little left at the end of the game. Oh. So the lab work will tell you where you are. So the metabolic causes of obesity, okay, you can count them on one hand. So what's number one? Insulin resistance, hence the discussion tonight. You never heard about this stuff until recently, and the people are now advertising for it. You never heard about this. This has been known for decades. Nothing new in this. The second one is hypothyroidism will cause weight gain at roughly the same rate, which is 4 to 5 pounds per year. If you're hypothyroid and insulin resistant, you're going to gain weight faster and more aggressively. It's not going to work so well. The third one is a little bit more unusual, and that's estrogen dominance. Too much estrogen, you'll gain weight just as a head of cattle does. So what do? Well, at Stages of Life, we diagnose this. We draw blood in the office. We have our own lab there. The blood work to look at thyroid, looking at the gonadotropins, that's estrogen, testosterone, progesterone, as well as insulin, is about $200. Just doing the insulin to glucose is about $30.
Wow.
So this is very, very inexpensive. And when you're shopping around, you go, well, will my insurance cover it? It might or it might not. Okay. It's just the way it goes. If your Medicare covers every nickel of it, if you're some of these others, it may or may not.
Quick question before we go to a break off of our request line. Christine wants to know what you think of Sejardi.
I'm not sure what that is.
I'm not familiar with what that would be either. Maybe you can give me a better explanation. That might be a generic
I'd have to. Well, no, it's not a brand. It's a brand name of something. But it could also be a product. Okay. There are more products out there than there are people.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I understand.
So what is it? And what we're going to do, though. So I don't mean to be evasive on the question because that's about the last thing that I like to do. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into precisely what you want to look for, and assigning a brand name to it doesn't do you any great service. Proprietary blend of X, Y, and Z. If it says proprietary blend, it is not something you want to pick up.
It's crap. Huh?
But and we'll talk about that too.
All right. For more information on what Dr. Dave is talking about, you can go to stagesoflifemedicalinstitute.com. That's the splash page. Search whatever you like from there. You'll find insulin resistance and all kinds of information about products we're going to be talking about in the next segment. This is Connections, Relationship Radio with a Twist. We will be right back. Stay right there.
Connections is Relationship Radio. It's Connections.
Is this a rehearsal or is this a taping?
Shh. The people who run this place are absolute idiots.
I really like not knowing what's going to happen next.
Welcome back to Connections. We do this for you because somebody's got to get you in the know, and there's so much crap out there that is misleading. What you got?
I searched the Sonarde. Is that how it is?
Sure.
Seniority.
Sonarde. So I brought it for Dr. Dave so he could see what it was.
Okay, so what we have here is a new combination product of metformin, which is something I was going to discuss because it is a prescription item.
Okay.
As well as a patented agent that will cause your gut to not absorb sugar back. Okay, so it's great. So what you just did was took a medication which is excellent, metformin.
And ruined it.
No, not necessarily ruined it, but they give it away for free at most, pharmacies. At Publix, which is my favorite place to go to, they give it away for free, and then you probably turned it into $400 or $500 a month or more. So what do I think about it? Now that I've looked at the brand name to see what's in it, I would have to tell you that you may want to listen. Okay, so the caller back said, well, it's a prescribed medication. Yeah, that part I got. So when you're looking at insulin resistance syndrome, what is the real problem? If you want to have some fun, and I do this in my office on a routine basis when I have somebody sitting in front of me as a patient, a new patient, old patient, I even treat young patients, doesn't matter.
Okay.
But there they be, okay? And we talk about insulin resistance, and I'll go to Dr. Google, and I bring up a search, and it says insulin receptor, and then I hit the image button at the top. Now, you were all familiar with this. Most of you guys are much more familiar than am I. And what comes up is a series of simple drawings of the insulin receptor, and then they get more and more complex as you work your way down the list till you get to one in particular that looks like just this incredible Swiss watch of things that can go wrong with the insulin receptor. And that's a little closer to what the truth is all about. There are hundreds of glycoproteins and enzymes that become activated and work with each other to allow a single molecule of sugar, glucose, to enter the cell after it's stimulated by one molecule of insulin. There are hundreds of ways thereby where this thing can break. So the treatment for diabetes, insulin resistance in particular, is not necessarily going to involve one medication or one approach. You have to figure out what's broken.
I see.
So where do the breaks typically occur? So you want to go for the tall piles of marbles first. So when I approach this, you can't do a blood test in particular to know where this thing is broken. This is inside the cell anyway. It's not in the bloodstream. So it could be any one of 100 different things. So you start with the most common ones, and the most common places for it to break are at the receptor itself, the little tiny molecule. It's actually a dimer, and vanadium and chromium. These are two minerals. Okay, hexavalent vanadium, you don't need to necessarily know this, and hexavalent chromium. And so what will happen is these things attach to that receptor and change the protein shape to make it work. If it doesn't, you don't have it, it doesn't work, and it doesn't happen. So you can become heavy by chromium and vanadium deficiency. So people are going to go, well, that's funny, but I went out there and I took chromium, picolinate or polynicotinate capsules, and I lost weight and then it stopped. And the answer is this, of course.
Well, yeah.
That's exactly what you'd expect to see happen. You didn't finish the rest of the recipe. All right, there's more to it, and yet there's more.
Ooh,
so
the plot thickens.
vanadyl sulfate, vanadium. You're going to recognize vanadium. If you ever had any chemistry, it's called a transition element. If you're into metallurgy or even automobile mechanics, you're going to know vanadium because they use it to make steel, these anodized-looking parts, sometimes known as chrome steel. So what you do with this, vanadium is useful in the body in small amounts. Too much and you burn your kidneys out. Too little and you get diabetes. Chromium, too much, you burn the kidneys out, and too little, you get diabetes. So you really have to know your business to use this stuff, but it's actually the starting place when I start to treat diabetes.
Okay.
Zinc, selenium, vanadium, chromium, boron, manganese, magnesium, calcium, all of these minerals are necessary within this structure. So what I'll do is I'll look at the average individual, and I'll start them, again, on the minerals first. I have a product that I called Magic Minerals. I've been making this stuff, manufacturing it for 20 years or more. What does it do? It gives you the basic mineral package that can fix the problems that lead to thyroid disease as well as diabetes. And it's a long story. I'm not going to bore you with how I came up with this mixture, but it involved a guy. I was in practice here in Orlando for about a year. This fellow came in, and he had thyroid issues. So I went ahead and started him on zinc and selenium, and his thyroid got better. So I asked him, how are you feeling? He said, I'm feeling pretty good. Any issues over the past month since I saw you? He goes, yeah, well, I passed out and they were doing CPR on me on my tractor. I thought he was kidding me. Oh, by the way, my heart stopped. Well, his heart didn't stop, but he did. And so then I asked him, I said, well, what happened? How did they bring you around? Oh, well, they gave me a slug of sugar and my diabetes got under better control. And I went, wait a second here. So the minerals were actually lowering his blood sugar to the point where his insulin that he was taking became too effective and it knocked his blood sugar down.
Oh, goodness.
So I did a little work on this over the next 4 or 5 years and came up with a mixture, which, by the way, if you want to learn what it is, just go to stagesoflifevitamins.com, look up Magic Minerals, and read the product. Just look at what's on the ingredients. If you want to go out and make this yourself, you are welcome to do it. I didn't patent it. I did, I do create the mixture, but I don't care if you make it yourself. So I started studying different ways to create diabetes and different ways to fix it. So you start with the minerals. Very, very important. And then there are certain other things like metformin that are necessary and useful because they're free. Why in the world would I necessarily want you to spend more money on my products if you can get it for free at Publix and get a pub sub before you leave? There are lots of things you can do. So, what else do we do? Now, why does metformin work? Because it hits and influences a particular protein called adenosine monophosphate kinase, or AMPK.
Wait, write this down. Hold on.
Yeah, you'll be tested on this at the end. And so this is like the cogwheel in the center of the cell as it handles the insulin.
Okay.
It's another place that it breaks. So for freebie, I will find out whether or not this will reduce your need for my medications. Go figure, because I am a cheap son of a gun, if nothing else.
Well, no.
True. Every time I do this stuff, I spend other people's money.
Yeah.
Okay? I'll spend mine. I don't care too much about that. I'll spend Tessa's, and I really don't care about that. But the patients, I take it real seriously.
Okay.
I don't like doing it because...
like them to come back.
Well, there's that, but also, some people, the difference between having enough to eat and not having enough to eat might be $20. Okay? That's a big deal to some people, and I try to remain cognizant of that. Things like inositol will influence blood sugar. Now, why do these things work, and how do you pick them, and where do you go with it, and why do you pick one over the other, and what order do you do it? And it has to do with individuals' comorbidities. So if somebody comes in and they've got this issue and they're depressed, that can come from hypothyroidism. That's the number one symptom of hypothyroidism is depression. Obesity follows. Depression first. So depressed kids, I check their thyroid. I look for autoimmune thyroid disease, and you'd be shocked.
So wait, you get depressed, and then you get fat, and then
Yes.
you get more depressed?
No.
Okay,
What
just
happens
checking.
is that all cells, every tissue in your body...
That's relative, isn't it?
Well, kind of. But every tissue in your body is influenced by thyroid hormone.
Oh, okay.
So it's like the tide. The tide comes in, the tide goes out. The tide comes in, all boats rise. The tide goes out, all boats fall. And that's the way it works with thyroid. It controls metabolic rate. So if you're hypothyroid, your metabolism drops. No kidding. Well, what do you think happens to the brain when the metabolism drops? You don't
Turns into
think
goo.
so well. Yeah. And one of those symptoms might be lack of sleep, inability to sleep, depression, something called anhedonia. You can't get pleasure from things. Or you might feel pretty just lousy. You just don't have any energy. So thyroid is an important thing when looking at diabetes. So hypothyroidism and diabetes, prediabetes go hand in hand. So when I evaluate somebody for prediabetes, I check them out hard for hypothyroidism as well, because it's shocking how many people come in with both. It's fascinating. So I am hypothyroid. Okay, autoimmune, developed it 15, 18 years ago. How did it manifest? It was a bit of a problem. But it turns out that I'm also insulin resistant.
Okay, when we come back, we're going to talk about stuff that, the fast route, basically.
Fast route.
The fast route. Keep that in mind. It's coming up next here on Connections as we talk about pre-diabetes and how you can find out if it's for you. Just kidding, it's not for you. We want you to find out what you can do about it and make sure that we take care of business here. Connection Show, Relationship Radio.
You're listening to Connections. Connections is Relationship Radio.
Look at us. We work like dogs, we drink, and then we work like hungover dogs.
Happens.
From a strange man.
I'm thinking about having you examined for mental illness or drug use or massive head injury.
This is Connections. Broadcasting
Should
live
happen.
every night at 10 Eastern.
You know, you leave now and you gotta get an F.
It's true, there will be a test later. Connect. Welcome back to Connection Show. Melissa Fox, hashtag Lizzie said what? And Dr. David Klein from Stages of Life Medical Institute. So far, we have talked about, first of all, topic of the day is insulin resistance and pre-diabetes. We asked if it could be responsible for the weight gain. Yes, more than likely it is. How do we find these things out, huh? Do I just start buying things willy-nilly? Or do I keep doing what I'm doing? Or wait a minute, let's talk about the fast route.
Track. Okay, and this again came as a bit of a flash while we're sitting back having our morning coffee. I get up at between 4:30 and 5 most days, go to work about 7, 8. So what I do is I wake up my wife, okay, and then I get slapped or whatever it happens to be. It's a ritual every morning. Leave me alone. You whack, okay, and then I go get coffee, and we sit back and enjoy 2 cups, maybe 3 cups of coffee, and before, just to start the day off. And then that's where we talk and argue and do all the usual things that a married couple might do.
Slapping and things.
Yeah, so we were talking about, what damage, are we doing to ourselves with the coffee?
Yeah.
All right, so I'm sitting and drinking black coffee. I'm doing pretty well. I'm starting to actually wake up, feeling pretty good about myself. I know that my digestive tract will wake up shortly enough. But then, my lovely wife can't taste or smell anything right now because of the COVID
The COVID's
infection.
still kicking around.
Right? So
yeah.
we're trying to figure out how to make the coffee interesting to her again. So
Pepper.
we're taking a very, you could do that.
Mm-hmm.
We're taking a very nice product and starting to adulterate it to try to get around taste buds.
A hot sauce.
And this is
Tabasco.
pretty much how people get into trouble. This is how you get into trouble with insulin resistance.
Yeah.
Okay, so what is the first taste that gets people addicted to food? It's
Sweet.
Sugar, high fructose corn syrup. And what's the last thing that happens as you start to get older is you develop a sweet tooth and gain weight. Because the taste buds will die off and change at different rates. And one of the last ones that goes is sweet.
It's true. 99 years old, my grandmother was on Starlight Mints and Fudge Pops.
Because
it's all
that's
she
all
wanted.
that's all she could taste.
Yeah, she'd
So-
eat Honey Nut Cheerios too. Don't feel
and
it.
her, and her
Very
bottom will just get
nutritious.
bigger and bigger and bigger, and that's a problem.
Yeah, she
so
was 99. Who cared? At that point, she was like, I don't care.
yeah, you don't.
Yeah, well, I
Made it
mean,
this far.
right.
But that's
Give me that Fudge Pop.
That's how people are killing themselves. So what does that high fructose corn syrup and just fructose in general? What does it do? It's a direct competitive antagonist. That means it inhibits the insulin receptor. So when you take it, your body needs more insulin just to keep things working.
Ah.
So that's how the ball gets started. It gets started with kids and sweet tooth. So that donut isn't just a problem for now, but it's a problem for later as well.
Gotcha.
Eating the candy, drinking the sodas. These are things that have no place in your house. They don't belong there. If you train a kid to like that stuff, they're going to be unhealthy for the rest of their lives. So in our population, the place where this really starts is with fructose, high fructose corn syrup or corn mash. You can fatten a cow by giving it corn mash.
Oh, yeah.
That's how you do it. That's how you take cattle and fatten them 30%
It's also
in 6
how you make
weeks.
the hooch.
I was going to say
It's-
moonshine.
Well, moonshine's a different matter. There are things that there are positive aspects there. But there's no positive aspect to a can of Coca-Cola
No.
or Mountain Dew for that matter. We've on this show earlier years we have had discussions about Mountain Dew.
that'll
One
rot
of the
you.
most potent addictive substances known. Why?
Absolutely.
Because you have fructose and you have caffeine. The only thing you're missing
And
is
high-
salt.
Well,
If
no,
you had-
there's sodium in it too, though.
Oh, is there?
Yep.
Oh, so much. I don't drink that
Yeah,
junk.
yeah. No, if you look, you'll see all sodas have some sodium in them. And
Very
Yeah.
addictive. So the fast route to getting this thing under control is to get your lab work done. So we're trying to decide how to deliver this to people and make it affordable, make it easy. Right now, if you own your own health insurance or if you're on somebody else's plan, you're going to notice a little something called a deductible. It's just like your car, except it's not $500 or $1,000. It might be $5,000 to $10,000. So your deductibles are astronomical right now, and the reason for this is because you're unlikely to ever spend enough to actually have the insurance pay for anything.
oof, yeah.
It's there for catastrophic coverage.
Okay.
You have a major injury, you end up having to go in the hospital or something like that, then it's really helpful to have it. But for routine illnesses, and this is a routine everyday problem, it is not a particularly good thing to have. So what we do is we price these packaged blood work deals for about 1/8 of what it is at the commercial labs.
So you got a one-stop shop to get the blood work to find out where you're if you're diabetic.
Well, the amount of
and-
money you save. So,
Okay.
like the gonadotropin thyroid package, estrogen, testosterone, progesterone, thyroid, as well as the insulin package, is about $200. If you go to the major labs, it's about $800. It's just the way it goes. If you go to these on-demand lab places, it's again $800. So it's about 1/4 to find out what the heck is going on.
Okay.
It's like a soil sample to a farmer. Without it, you don't know what to add to the mix. You don't know what has to go out in the field. So what are you going to do? Drop $20,000 worth of fertilizer if you needed a different one?
Right. So one-stop shop for this testing, a decent deal at about 1/8 of the cost of your
1/8.
regular labs. StagesLifeMedicalInstitute.com for more information on that. So this fast route to finding things out,
Yeah.
if you will, with the pre-diabetes, this testing, the blood work and all, what are we, time commitment?
Yeah, it takes about 20 minutes. You come
Okay.
and get your blood drawn and go. I mean, it's not that big a deal. You'll waste a whole lot more time that at the package labs. You could be there all morning.
So how do I become a new patient then?
Well, you don't necessarily. And this is the fun part.
Wait,
this is
what?
where we changed it. Okay, it used to be that we'd have you come in and become a new patient formally. You'd come in and it would take all morning. It'd take
Yeah,
2 to 3
20
hours.
pages of information, the whole- yeah.
And so that we charged about $490
For the intake and
for
all that.
for 3 hours of my time.
Right.
So instead of doing this,
a
because a lot of
bargain.
folks can't, it is a bargain
It's a
actually.
very good bargain.
Oh yeah. Well, we get patients from all over the country and abroad. But okay, what I'm willing to do is to bring people in, just do a simple questionnaire so I can get your name, disease states, and we'll do the blood for you, and then send the blood work on to you. If you decide you want to do something with it, you can take your blood work, go to your family doc, see how well that works for you, or you can then make a decision whether you want to come in or not.
Wow.
So it's a very reasonable kind of a thing. You know, what I'm looking at doing, and I haven't done yet, is a series of videos. That's something that Melissa and I are going to talk about. So that way, should you end up with abnormalities, there will be lectures and whatnot behind it to help you, work your way through it. So this is really going to be, the average man, average woman's approach to do it yourself.
Got you. So,
That's the fast way to do it.
all right, the fast track on that. Again, so you go to stagesoflifemedicalinstitute.com.
Yeah. And then go to, it's Stages of Life medicalinstitute.com. Look for the Contact Us
Contact
tab.
us. Okay.
Go ahead and hit that, and then give us your data, your information, and the messages that I would like to arrange to get. We call it the Value Pack or Val Pack.
Okay.
I'd like to get the Val Pack. Why did I pull Val Pack? Because I'm just amused by these little coupons that I get in the mail
Did you
for
actually
things
open
that
those?
I don't
I was
need.
gonna say you actually open them and look through them.
Well, I look and make sure that there are no pizza ads in there. No, I don't look at them, but I call it Val Pack because it amuses me.
I like it. I like it a lot.
Yeah.
So there you go. You can do, and you don't. At this point now, you've changed it because initially you wanted to do a telehealth and schedule.
Well, we're
and
getting
all that.
there. Oh, no, I'm not done yet.
Okay, all right.
Okay.
It's a surprise.
Yeah, now, the telehealth component, once we have your lab work done, and I've got something to work with, if you want to be done, treated, examined even really, by telehealth, we then have some meat and potatoes that we can make this thing work.
Okay.
With doing the telehealth before you get the lab work is a waste of your time and mine. It's frustrating to me. I'll sit back and chat with you on the phone, charge you for the privilege, and do nothing for you because I can't.
You're not interpreting any results.
No,
Yeah.
but in order to make it legal, we have to have you fill out a bit of paperwork that gives me the information on you, and I have to formulate a medical record. That keeps it on the up and up according to the federal government. And then there's the regular traditional way with it, which, by the way, is probably the fastest way to do this. And that's to give us a call, come on in, and then we do it from the ground up. And the reason is by the time you hit 30 or 40 years of age, it gets complicated enough that you really want to spend that time, to get looked at. Now, I don't like going to the doctor's office. In fact, I rather dislike it intensely. The only thing I like less is going to the dentist office.
Oh, I like the dentist.
And yet I go 4 to 5 times a year. When it comes to your health, this is something that you really want to handle, because by the time you're 200 pounds as a female or 220 as a male,
too late.
it is well on the way of being too late.
Okay.
So that is when that's when diets and procedures become uncomfortable. Your best bet is to figure it out once your dress size, let's say, starts to exceed half your age. Then all of a sudden you know that you're on your way to problems. So I was corrected by my wife, who said, well, it's not all about dress size, because sometimes the shirt size and the pant size and the shoe size are all different. I got it. I
when they
understand.
finally figured out mix and match bathing suits,
Yeah.
they stumbled on something.
I
there.
think the French had it better anyway. They just wear the bottoms. That's the end
But
of it.
see,
So it
that's
makes it easier.
That's where the problem, and the bottoms and the tops don't line up.
Hey, that was my savior back in the day.
Is that Libby here is,
Lizzie's amazing.
she's got attributes.
All right, we're going to talk about some nutraceuticals and stuff that are frequently diagnosed for prediabetes, etc. And who knows? Let's talk about everything else that's going on as well as we put the wraps on this. Coming up, it is Connections Relationship Radio with a twist.
This is Connections. Connections is Relationship Radio.
3, 2, 1. Yeah, it's time to come back from commercial.
It's got to be one of the best entrance songs.
No
ever.
question about it. I love it.
Work it, girl. Go. One more. A little higher. There we go. All right.
Yeah, I remember one of the first shows I did with you guys. Okay, this thing came on, and I thought, I like it here.
That's our own Linda Nunez music.
Soul
.com.
Linda Nunez.
Welcome back to Connections, as the singer says.
So we could get Linda Nunez if we have like our own podcast to do that. We could pay her to do
probably
that.
that would work.
How would we get a hold of her?
Linda Nunez, music.com. You can find her on the social outlets as well. Welcome back to Connections. We're talking with Dr. David Klein from Stages of Life Medical Institute. We have been breaching, and just about beating the heck out of the subject of prediabetes, diabetes, insulin resistance, and more. Why? Because there's a Val pack of blood tests put together that Dr. Dave can do for you to tell you where you sit on the list.
Yeah, it gets us about 60% of the way there with regards to getting your health under control. There are a bunch of things that we're not able to check for that. All right? It just isn't going to happen. But it's going to take care of the majority of the problems that are plaguing folks up to about the age of 40, 45.
Okay.
You know, as you start getting a little bit older, there's some other things that we should check. And so we do. And this is not going to be a substitute for any of that. So what do you do? What's the do-it-yourselfer's guide to controlling insulin resistance? You can either go on TV and buy one of those products.
stop.
And if you think that you can get that thing done in one pill, okay, you are sadly mistaken. Why? I'd like you to try to take 30 pounds of potatoes and jam it into a 5-pound bag. It doesn't
I
work
do that
very
every
well.
time I get
I was
dressed.
going to say every time she
Yeah,
puts
there
her
you go.
jeans on. What the
Well,
heck?
you know, but this stretchy fabric seems to work for that.
Oh, yeah.
To some extent.
It hurts.
So what do we do? Why do we? You know, how are we going to approach this?
I'm not
so
sure
one
at
pill
this
isn't
point.
going to do it. Well, I don't like taking pills, and I don't like doing this. I don't like doing that. Well, I tell you what. Look in the mirror and tell me it's working for you. And if you can tell me that it is, then we have nothing further to discuss.
Okay.
If you have an issue, then what you're doing right now apparently isn't working. So we have to find a better approach. So putting limits on yourself, like, I don't want this and I don't want that, that's very childish and very, very unrealistic. First thing you need to do is to push away the sweets. If you don't do that, you're going to get fatter. It's just the way it works. You got to push away the soy. If you don't do that, you're going to get fatter. But what can you take? What are the products? What are the chemicals? What are the moieties, is the word that we use in chemistry, that are necessary to get this thing under control?
Now, I heard magic minerals earlier.
Magic minerals is a mainstay.
All right.
Why do I like magic minerals? Because
you
it gets
cobbled
you
it together?
No, it's because
that
I did
too.
cobble it together.
Okay.
Yeah, so it used to be called Daddy's Magic Minerals. I did it for my daughter when she was 10 years old. She would grow tall and slender like the beanstalk in Jack and the Beanstalk. Hence the magic minerals.
I got you.
When she turned 18, I took away the daddy. Okay, because it was no longer
That's
really
creepy.
very dignified.
That's a little creepy. at
No
that
longer
point.
dignified. You know. So, but what it is, it's just a very convenient way of getting the minerals in the appropriate amounts and ratios. So originally what I did was I sent people to the store the list of things, and they never got it right, because the more things you have people do, the less likely it is it's going to work. So you want to simplify. So this was the first thing I did to simplify mineral intake. Now, it isn't going to work in its entirety for everybody. So the magic minerals is a good starting block. You start with 2 in the morning, 2 cap in the morning, 2 in the evening. That would be breakfast and dinner. It works just fine. You'll start to feel pretty darn well, actually, after 2 or 3 days, and it lasts about a week and a half.
Cool.
And then you start feeling yourself, you know, kind of like the way you did before. The brain actually gets used to the increased energy. So the background starts to change. It's not that it's not working. It's just that you're getting used to it being better. It's like temperature outside. You know, if it's 50 degrees and you're used to being 20, it feels pretty darn warm. If it's 80 degrees outside and tomorrow it's 50, it's going to feel pretty darn cold. We all experience this. And how long does it take to get used to it? 2 or 3 days. So we start with the magic minerals. For folks that are truly insulin resistant, that's where the insulin level may go over 20 to 30 in that range. I'll add one to it called Diabetstat. Now, why Diabetstat? What it does is it calls attention to what the disease state that it's for, so people don't take it for reasons that are not necessarily going to work. But what it is, it's additional vanadium and chromium. So it fits into the magic minerals by adding the appropriate amount of chromium, taking you to the maximum permitted dosage of chromium and vanadium. So the two work together like 2 pieces of a jigsaw puzzle. Additionally, there's some alpha lipoic acid and a couple other odds and ends, all of which are listed on the ingredients list. So if you, again, want to cobble it together, that's fine. But most importantly, I want you to look at the other things that are out there and look at the amounts, because the way people fool their customers in this business is by putting a line in there and then putting very little next to it. Well, it's got chromium. Yeah, 20 milligrams. Okay? 20 micrograms. So what will happen is that it doesn't give you the sufficient amount. Folic acid, how much is in there? Well, it's got 100 micrograms. It takes 5,000 micrograms to do the job. So you really have to look at these things in order to know what you're getting. Otherwise, you suffer from something called a sprinkle. We're going to sprinkle a little bit in and sprinkle a little bit in, and people aren't going to know any differently because it's listed there. So alpha lipoic acid works if you take sufficient amount. So getting back to a basic here, the basic is this, that the difference between a nutrient and a poison is rate, route, and amount. So if you take the wrong amount, it ain't going to work. Too little, just ineffective, and too much, it can be toxic. So 800 micrograms of chromium is more than enough for the average adult. If you take more than that, it's going to cost you kidneys. Vanadium, same thing. So what else do we use? Inositol. There's no toxicity attached to inositol at all. But what it does is it influences a particular part of the cycle within the cell from the insulin receptor that involves phosphorus. So inositol hexaphosphate is really where this stuff ends up. So you take the inositol. If you're inositol deficient, it is in fact an obligate B vitamin. Okay. You will become depressed if you don't have enough of it, and you become fat.
All right. So
oddly enough,
magic minerals, diabetic stat, inositol, and one more.
There's one more that we're going to talk about. There are other ones behind it. Olive leaf extract. Now, whoa.
What's this all about?
Olive leaf is pretty cool stuff, not to be confused with olive oil.
No.
So according to Hippocrates, let olives be for thy food and the leaf for thy medicine. So it's been known for thousands of years. What does olive leaf do? The extract is standardized, so it makes it easier to use medicinally. But if you want to go get olive leaf and crush it up and knock yourself out, it does a few things. But most importantly, it's helpful for the insulin receptor. It's also a mild antibiotic and a purgative. I mean, what it'll do is if you take too much of it, you're going to wear it in your undertrowel. So olive leaf extract is very, very important. It's of all the things that we're taking, it's the most expensive of the medications.
Right, but isn't it the smallest dosage?
No, it has nothing to do with the dosage. It's not a potency issue; it's a price issue. Okay. So I tend to add that one last because it may not be necessary. Gotcha. So I start with the magic minerals, diabetic inositol, wait a little bit, and then add the olive leaf extract. Starting somebody on metformin, I can only do if they're patients already. How much metformin does it take? So I had a patient come in this morning. Well, I'm already on metformin. It didn't work, so I stopped it. Well, how much did your doctor have you take? The answer was 500 milligrams once a day. Well, that's a child's dosage.
Yeah,
children are one thing, but adults are something else. I take 2,000 milligrams a day, and it keeps me nice and I'd say slender, but my wife says I'm porky. Yeah. However, I'm less porky than I was.
Don't think
so
she
metformin.
says that.
So metformin is important. But the take-home message with getting your insulin level down, it's not just about weight, but it also reduces your risk for cancer.
So Stages of Life, medicalinstitute.com, everything you need to know is right there. And if you decide to become part of the Stages of Life family, they will help you through all of the techniques, whether it is your telehealth visits, the patient portals, you name it, you got it. I think we learned a lot today, Dave.
Got a lot packed in there. It was a pleasure.
Appreciate you, Lizzie. Always a pleasure.
Yep. Good night.
Follow hashtag Lizzie Said What. You might find some goofy stuff out there. I am Melissa Fox. Thank you all for joining us. And remember, you can find our podcast of this show on the iHeartRadio app. Thanks for listening. Love you, mean it. Say goodbye. You waved.
Laughing time is over.
There you have it, boys. Case closed.
You've been listening to Connections. Find tonight's show and replays of our past shows on ConnectionsShow.com.